I've helped many, many, many children, thousands of children all over the world. Cancer kids, leukemia kids.
He's a humanitarian.
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 Humanitarian, the real Michael Jackson.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Humanitarian, the Real Michael Jackson podcast. I'm your host, Paul Dwyer, and I'm very happy to introduce you to a man today that I've had the pleasure of meeting recently, Raphael Recht. Raphael lives with cystic fibrosis and in 1996 met Michael Jackson while MJ was in Melbourne on his history tour. Now, Raph has a great story to tell, so thank you, mate, for talking to me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
For the listeners out there that don't know, I was hoping to start off with basically what is cystic fibrosis and how or when were you diagnosed?
Well, I was diagnosed at birth. My brother was actually born before me, who also has cystic fibrosis. So as soon as I was born, they tested me and that came back positive. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic condition that affects the cystic fibrosis transmembrane regulator, which is a little filter within all the organs that filter salt and water to help clear out bacteria, to keep your airways, your organs free from buildup of bacteria and mucus, basically.
Yeah.
It affects the lungs, the pancreas, digestive system, and then also can then go on later in life to affect your bones through malnutrition, late onset diabetes. That's basically the main.
Wow. So as a kid, were you of the understanding that this is a condition that's treatable and that you can live with and have a long life with?
When I was born, it was still considered a children's disease, meaning that people with CF wouldn't live past childhood. Age was like, I think life expectancy was probably like 10. And then as I got to 10, it went to 15. And then I got to 15, it went to 19. And then I got to 40 and it went to 40. So
you're leading the way, huh?
So just keeps catching up with me.
So tell us about your childhood and how you fell in love with dancing.
I think I fell in love with dancing just through watching movies, Fred Astaire, Beat Street, Michael Jackson, Fame, all these different films that were sort of encapsulated movement, expression, and dance sort of captivated me. And I think in 89, I got the bad tape, and then that's when actually my brother got the tape, and then I took it. And I think it was from there that I was just very obsessed with Michael Jackson and learning how to dance.
And so at that age, when you're discovering you love to dance, is hospital visits a regular thing that you're going through?
Yeah. Hospital visits were like 3-4 times a year. And hospital admissions were like 2 to 3 times a year as well.
Wow. That must be hard to take when you're trying to just to live your life. And then, so fast forward to 96, do you remember finding out that he was coming to Australia?
For Dangerous, I think my mum had written a letter already saying that how much it helped me. He really shaped a positive outlook, rather than like focusing me on my health. It was like how I can help other people. And that really changed. But probably like before it was even conscious, it shaped how I think about me and my condition. Like he really took the idea of like me being woe is me to how can I help other people.
Yeah.
Very, very early, I think that sort of he gave me that kind of perspective. But my mum had written a letter saying how much he'd helped me with my attitude and my being positive, and gave me something to focus on. And then he never came. He never did the Dangerous tour. And then for history, I was like a little sick, had a little chest infection, and I kind of thought, oh, if I'm in hospital, I'll probably have a more chance of meeting him. Yeah. So my mum had written a letter.
So it was strategic. So it was strategic to be in hospital.
A little bit.
Somewhat.
Yeah. A little bit. It wasn't a big reach. So the day he arrived, Mum got a phone call from his people saying, hi, we've got your letter. We would love him to come down to the hotel and meet Michael Jackson when he arrives, or be there. And my mum was like, oh, my son's in hospital. And they were like, oh, which hospital? The Children's Hospital. Children's? Yeah, the Children's Hospital. Yep. So they said, oh, we just spoke to the Children's Hospital, and we've organised for a bunch of the kids to come down to let these doves free when he arrives. And so I just figured that it just matched up that I was already there. So we got down there, and there was a whole lot of like buzz. It was like, are we going to meet him? Is he going to be here? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Everyone's like walking back and forwards. There's like a DJ out the front, heaps of people there. You were there. Yep. You remember there was like the barriers, the barricades, all the news were there, police were there. And then I saw a group of friends of mine behind the barricades who I'd actually been busking with like 2 weeks before in St. Kilda. And we actually sat there and we had this conversation after we were busking, and it was like, what would you do if you met him? And I said, oh, I'll just give him a hug and ask if I could dance for him. And then when I saw them, they were like, man, what are you doing? Like, start dancing. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, good idea. So I started dancing. And then the lady that answered my mum's letter was like, you never actually said that he could dance. You just, explained how much of an inspiration that he had been to him.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, yeah, well, I didn't want to, go too deep into that part. So then they were like, oh, well, Michael has to meet this kid now. So we waited around, and he finally arrived, and I was sort of ushered to him to greet him. And I was like, dude, can I dance for you? He was like, go for it. So he just sat there and watched me dance, and then just hung out from there on.
Just hung out?
Yeah.
Just hung out. So where he arrives and he's out the front of the hotel, and so there you are out the front of the hotel as well, dancing for Michael. And then what happens? He just
said, stick by my side. So we did all the formalities. He spoke to all the people, watched all the performances, the Indigenous cultural dance. There was a little choir. Then we went upstairs to the hotel room, and it was probably about 100 people up there, all his people. Wow. Guards, some media.
And were the other kids from the hospital, did they come up as well? No.
Just me.
So they went back, did they go back to the hospital?
Yeah.
Yep. So here you are alone at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Melbourne, upstairs with Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Have you seen the video? I mean, you've seen the video, the ET News one?
Yes.
That was then.
Yeah.
So we went up there, and then he's like, he started beatboxing for me. I danced for him again. And then he asked me if I wanted to go to the concert. And I said the famous, that's a stupid question.
Yep.
I've showed some people that recently, and they're like, well, yeah, that was a stupid question.
I love the confidence in that kid.
Yeah, of course you want to go to the concert. And yeah, and then I went downstairs and went back to the hospital.
Sweet. And so what, did he give you the tickets there and then say come back?
No, I actually said I'll only go if you can organize a bus for all the other hospital kids that want to go.
Awesome.
Which is really funny because some of the kids I was in hospital with, who I've been in hospital with a lot, they all have the same condition. They kind of ganged up on me. You know, they're like, oh, you know, you're getting like very cocky, and you know, you think you're so cool. And I was like,
Sort of helped you out, dude.
kind of just organized for all of you to come to the show as well. And like, I really wanted to give all the other kids the same experience that I just had.
Yeah.
And yeah, like all the news were coming to interview me. But like, I really wasn't letting it get to me like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it was very interesting. Kids
so then what, a bus picks you all up from the hospital again?
Yeah, so the bus picked us all up from I think we took big taxis because there were some kids in wheelchairs to the hotel, and then from the hotel we got on the buses. So the first show, we never saw him come out of the hotel, so we got on the buses and went to the concert. And then just before Heal the World, I was taken backstage and did the show, and then brought back and left.
Did you go on the stage for Heal the World?
Yeah, I went on stage, and then they man, this must be so much that is orchestrated, because like it was clearly set up that when all the kids in Heal the World do a circle, that I was to stop right in front, just behind him, and then for him to give me an opportunity to come forward and dance. So he's very he knows exactly what he's doing. So he's obviously like, okay, this is what's going to happen here. You know, it's all him. Yep. You know, there's no one else being like, oh, that kid needs to do this. It's all him saying that this needs to happen like this. Which is, it just shows, you know, that the way he was thinking, and nothing's by chance.
Yeah.
Then on the second night, we went to the hotel before pre-show, and somehow I missed the bus, so I ended up him coming down out the elevator, and then from there I went with him in the Tarago to the concert, and then we just hung out backstage until the show, and then I went back to sit with my family, and then I think 3/4 of the way I just went backstage again. I was like, I'm gonna go watch, and I just watched the show from backstage.
What?
Yeah, and I was sitting with the sound guy, and he was like, "This is all him singing." I was like, "Is he miming or is he singing?" And he's like, "No, watch this." And he started like just like pulling all the tracks down, and he's like, "No, this is really him singing." You know, he never mimes.
That's crazy. So wait, go back, because you said you missed the bus, so you've jumped in the Tarago with Michael and gone to the MCG.
Before that, he comes out the elevator. And there's like a really thin, like out of the elevator, it's like a really thin walkway, just lined of people.
Yep.
And as we're walking out, another he probably a little bit younger than me, had the opportunity to step out and perform for Michael. So Michael sits back and watches this kid dance. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is cool. You know, like this, you know, kid getting an opportunity like I had. And then Michael looks at me and he's like, go on. I'm like, what? He's like, battle him. Go on. Show him how it's done.
Awesome.
I felt really bad.
So
and then he was like, awesome. Let's go.
So then you jumped to Tarago and you're off to the MCG.
Yeah, it was just the three of us in this picture behind you.
Ah, yep. Wow. And so
then we went backstage, and then Debbie was there. Very
Debbie
pregnant,
Rowe.
Debbie. She was so pregnant. Oh man.
Yeah, she was very pregnant then.
But supposedly, it's funny because the newspapers that day had said that she wasn't in Melbourne.
I remember they were all trying to chase her down, and I think they actually videoed Di Roll, the publicist from Melbourne, and said that was her, but it wasn't. And they were trying to chase her down.
She was wearing a wig and everything. Like she was She was well in disguise.
So did you watch the concerts from side stage or from the audience? Or a bit of both?
Probably more on the first show from the audience, and the second show backstage.
Wow. And what are your memories from backstage? Who was there? Did anyone?
Oh, I almost fell down a manhole. You just watch out for the manhole. Really, really small spaces backstage. Who was backstage? Just stylist.
All the dancers.
Yeah, and just tech. Lots of tech people.
Wow. Were the other kids from the hospital side stage for that second show?
No, that was just all.
That was just you. That's unreal. Sorry?
When I was backstage on the second show, I had a VIP world tour pass made for me.
So were you brought on stage again for Heal the World?
Yeah.
Wow, twice.
And then after that, I just stayed backstage with him, and then we ended up leaving in the Tarago together after the concert.
And then straight back to the hotel again?
Yeah, back to the hotel, and went upstairs, and I can't remember his name, but the one in the middle, he had an adjoining room, and then I was just running around his hotel playing PlayStation, which was not released in Australia yet.
The PlayStation 1?
PlayStation 1 had not been even released here. And he's like, oh, have you got one of these? I'm like, no, they're not even here. He's like, oh, okay, cool. And then probably 40 minutes later, there's a knock on the door, and he's like, oh, that's for you. And I went to answer the door, and it was a Sony rep at 12:30 at night with a PlayStation.
What? That's crazy. Just click your fingers. And so you got a PlayStation?
Yeah, he gave me a PlayStation and all the games that were in the room.
No.
And then my parents arrived, and we just talked, and then had dinner.
What did you talk about?
Well, he saw my brother, and he was like, "Oh, I see a lot of Jim Morrison in you."
Oh, really?
He was very intuitive with people's musical energy.
Wow. Was your brothers into the Doors and that sort of?
He was at the time.
Yep.
96. And I think we just spoke a lot about music, our journeys. He really enjoyed speaking to my mum and my stepdad at the time, and my brother. And then, yeah, we had dinner. We spoke about my mum was like, oh, how old are you now? And he was like 10. And my mum was like, what? He was like, yeah, I'm 10. And then he said, if you didn't know how old you were, how old would you be?
Wow. That's interesting.
And his answer is however old you feel.
Yep. And so he felt like a 10-year-old.
He was like, yeah, I'm 10.
Wow.
You know, these days everyone's like, oh, I'm a boy, or I'm a girl, I'm neither. It's like, yep. So like Prince said in an interview to the interviewer, how many birthdays have you had? And Prince says, you've had one birthday. You've only been born once.
Yeah.
Stop counting.
Yeah. Good point. I like that.
So they're very interesting. Like we put age on ourselves. Yeah. You know,
yeah, very true. Wow. This is so, and I hear you had this conversation. Was it when your parents were there that he asked if you wanted to go on tour with him?
I don't think they were. But he was like, come on the rest of the, I think it was backstage at when he gave me the world tour pass.
Oh,
they took my photo and they made a world tour pass for me.
Wow.
It was cool because it was like an octagon with your photo, and then like the history album.
Oh cover. Yeah. Yep.
And there was like Michael Jackson world tour VIP all access pass. It was super cool pass.
That's really cool. And so what do you say when Michael Jackson says, come on tour with me around?
I said yes, but then obviously when I sat in front of my parents and my doctors, they were like, well, no, you're in hospital. But I mean, he has doctors and nurses. I met his doctor, travels with him. Like I would have and should have, but I didn't.
Wow. Well, that experience itself is enough. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was really happy with that. And, you know, I knew there were more kids just like me that, you know, deserved and wanted the same type of encounters. So, you know, I was really, you know, I was happy with that opportunity I had.
Yeah.
You know, I hear, you know, you watch different like talk shows and you see like people like Will Smith talk about their close encounters
Yeah.
with Michael Jackson. And then to some people, they're superstars. But then I hung out with superstar.
Yeah, that's true. It must still make your head spin, does it?
Sometimes, yeah. I'm like, man, that's crazy.
And so then, like a tornado, the next day he's gone,
and
you're just left there. How were you feeling after he left?
Well, he came to the hotel before he left. He came to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
He came to the hospital, which is where this photo is taken.
Yep.
That's in the. They have like on the third floor, the Old Children's Hospital, third floor, they have like a giant rumpus room, pinball machines, table tennis table, and then a classroom for all the kids to do school stuff.
Oh, yeah.
This was taken back there when he came to visit. He brought a bunch of toys, which I think were all sort of stolen by staff. And then, yeah, and then he hung out and then he left.
How was your health after he left? Were you still going to the hospitals?
Yeah, I think that may have been my last admission for quite a few years. Like from then till 15, 16, 17, 18, almost 15 years, I think I may have stayed out of hospital for.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, I think because of that lost opportunity, because I was in hospital, I was like, right, I'm never going back to hospital again.
Good motivation.
It was a bit late though.
Unreal. So as that experience has obviously stayed with you to this day. Actually, it's 26 years to the day today that happened.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
When you said that to me the other day, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and while I've been doing these interviews over the last couple of weeks, and I've seen so many coincidences and things that just align, and I take it as a message that I'm on the right track and doing the right thing. Really trippy.
I actually launched my album on his the anniversary of his death.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Is that the Lex Project one? Yep.
Life expectancy, yeah.
So when was that? Was it last year?
No, it was like 3 months ago.
So tell us about that.
What do you want to know?
What is the Lex Project?
So Lex Project is a project that spawned from my album Life Expectancy, the hip hop album that talks about my life, my journey, my experiences, and my perspective of life, death, overcoming, living with a chronic illness, going to 10 schools. Yeah, and just kind of everything that I've experienced in life. I thought I'd just put it into one project, overcoming adversities to live a happy, healthy life, to inspire other people to do the same thing. That was the idea of the album. And then the Lex Project is kind of like me. Well, we're yet to put on the encompassing event, which would basically be many artists from different practices, all with the same perspective and the same thought process and the same ideas around those themes. So whether it's dance, visual arts, music, spoken word, poetry, movement coming together to do like a group show.
Yep.
Some half exhibition, half performance, even a panel talk discussing these perspectives and themes.
That's awesome.
Mm.
Is that, I know you did some work with some Indigenous Australians, some hip hop Indigenous Australian videos.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a similar theme coming through there, do you think?
It's literally the way I looked at doing that work was, see, I think what I've learned through my experience, and also a big takeaway from Michael, was empathy and compassion. And then through all my experience of storytelling and the way I see things, plus my own sort of practices, when I did that work with the Indigenous Hip Hop projects, I really wanted to help them tell their truth.
Yeah.
So even though it was almost 10 years ago, like as an art director, going into work with that group, it is still very similar to the way I put together a Lex Project, where it's about those same themes of struggle, overcoming adversities, positive outlooks, and flipping that negative to a positive.
Yeah.
So going in and working with Indigenous communities, I have that empathy and compassion to really understand their stories and really try to draw that out of them.
Yeah.
Which I think I did to an extent.
So where can people see or hear Life Expectancy or the Lex Project?
Life Expectancy is on YouTube, Spotify, pretty much all music streaming platforms.
Beautiful.
You can just search my name, Raphael Recht, or Life Expectancy.
Anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
I don't know. Anything else you want to ask?
I don't think so. I had questions here, but I sort of just threw them to the side. You're a great storyteller. And, I've listened to the other podcast you did with Paris and read some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask, actually. You mentioned talking about the name Paris to Michael before Paris was born.
Yeah, well, at the time, I was like in a dance crew with my friend Paris and another girl, Kirsty, and we were doing underage dance competitions at Metro in Melbourne, where we won a few, like doing Michael Jackson style things. And so I kept telling him about my friend Paris, and he kept saying, "Oh, that's a really cool name. That's a really cool name." And then just a few months later, baby born, Paris, I told Paris as well. I was like, I was telling him all about you, how we were dancing and all this. And then she calls me and she's like, he named his kid Paris. I've heard the story from Paris on the internet that the name came from somewhere else, but I think it's super coincidental that.
Yeah, that's really cool. He either got the idea from you or he had the idea and was just playing with you going, "Oh, I like that name."
Yeah, maybe.
That's a pretty cool story as well. Mate, your whole story is really cool. The PlayStation thing, the dancing for him, the Paris thing. I just love it. Thanks again for chatting with us.
Doing a good job.
We'll chat again soon, man.
Look forward to it.
Take care.
Thank you.
See you, mate.
Yeah.